Hi guys, Mr. Jaeger here, and welcome back to IAE 2954. In the last episode, we did a few things with the Aegis and had a rather long time of it. Jesus. But still, we're here on the third day. That's right, it is Mirai MISC Day. And from what I've gathered, there's already a shitstorm going on with the whole lack of a Guardian thing towards it. Minor spoilers ahead, but there is a ship that we're not available to have as a concept or anything else. So maybe a 4.0, maybe not. We're not too sure. Anyway, let's get cracking with this day. So we are being introduced to a new boy on the block. That is right, the new Starlancer Max has entered into the verse, and we're going to be seeing a whole bunch of awesome stuff as a result. So I'm pretty intrigued as to what we're going to be seeing here, because obviously the Starlancer is a brand new ship from MISC, showcasing the latest of innovations from them, and I'm not going to lie, I'm very, very curious, to say the least. But still, I'm actually quite pumped. I'm not a huge MISC fanboy, but I am rather intrigued as to what kind of ship we're going to be going to. But before that, let's take a moment to have a look at some of the other vessels before we introduce ourselves to this ship. This is the first time seeing this particular vessel as well, which is kind of interesting. So, moving to the first things we're going to look at, we're actually going to look at something really tiny. It is the Pulse, the new-ish bike to come out of Mirai, who some of you may be confused as to Mirai. Well, basically, Mirai is a sort of offshoot Xeno-esque group of but basically it's like sort of a subgroup of MISC, and they primarily design ships around more Xeno/racing technology. So the Mirai are responsible for little bikes like this, which is the Pulse. It's got size 1 mass repeater on the front, and it's got limited cargo storage capacity, but overall it's a nice little speed bike. Looks a lot better than some of the other bikes I'm very happy to report, which is wonderful. And moving on into the other side, we have the Pulse LX, which is a dedicated racer pattern. Now, obviously, at the moment, with the racing scene being as big as it is, it's not surprising that as a speedster bike that was being introduced into the verse will have its own racing edition introduced. And when we get such to places such as Pyro, with servo meshing being even more awesome and being introduced, we're going to be seeing quite a big boost to that one as well, which is fantastic. So, two tiny little vessels with a lot of potential for that. Going on into the other thing, however. So, we've pulled ourselves out of the event due to the fact that when I attempted to go into the Starfarer's ship, the version of the Starfarer in the expo hall is bugged, and you can't actually get in the ship. And I think we had the same problem back on Invictus launch week, and on that one I decided to just say fuck it and move on. But on this one, because it is IAE, I do want to try and get in this ship. So we are taking the opportunity to quickly have a peruse around. Now, this is, I've said, the Starfarer. It is one of the oldest large ships in the game. And when I say oldest large ship, this is actually one of the first few ships that CIG... There you go. So that's what's supposed to happen when you use the bloody ramp door. So the Starfarer is a dedicated refueling platform, as you can see by the multiple tanks here, that the main pull of this ship is all about refueling vessels in the verse, be it with quantum or hydrogen fuel. And the big problem, though, the ship was famous and / infamous because for many years this ship didn't really have a use aside of being an attraction or something like that. But it also acted as a major lesson because, as you can see, this ship is kind of a mess when it comes to directions. Like when you enter into it, you get this massive big hall, and while it's cool because you can store quite a lot of stuff inside, it doesn't really serve any real purpose. I mean, for example, you would think going forward that going through to this thing would take you to the bridge, which it doesn't. In fact, it takes you to the docking collar at the bottom and the escape pods onto the side. So you're like, well, okay, where the hell do I go to get to the bridge? And so you think, oh, I've been silly. It's the side doors, obviously. And so you go up here, and you go all the way up here, and you're presented with multiple doors. So do you go in this one? And then I think this one actually does take you to the bridge. Or does it take you to a separate... No, it takes you to the back of the ship, which is completely not where you want to be. And so then you're thinking, shit, where the fuck am I going? So then you go along to here, round a corner, and making your way across. And then you go into a dark alleyway, which has no lighting whatsoever. I think this is because the lighting... Actually, to be fair, the lighting isn't on the ship, so... And then you're entering into this room, which is an additional set of cargo spots and whatever. And then finally, you are given the ability to look into the ship. You've got your captain's bridge there, and you've got the pilot seat and everything else. I'm going to put the power on just because I think we need to see some of the stuff and the MFDs working for a change. So, power is on. And I think now we should hopefully be able to see a little bit more of the ship. So in terms of the design philosophy, this ship is fairly old. As said, it was designed around 2012, and it was one of the first large ships that CIG made in Star Citizen. And I'm not like bashing CIG for making such a large ship, because you need learning curves, you need learning lessons, and this vessel, as said, still does serve a pretty good purpose. It does give you the means to refuel and rearm. The issue is that this is where, well, the thing with this particular ship is that a lot of things... For some reason I still have a chocolate bar on my character. Okay. The issue is a lot of these... Well, there's like 2 floors as well, which is kind of intriguing. But the thing is, you've got a number of options here. And I think this is the living accommodations? Yeah, it is. Again, very little lighting. Is there no lights in here? Yeah, this ship definitely needs a overhaul. For 2 reasons. First, we need to streamline a few things. And second of all, we need some fucking lights. Jesus Christ. I mean, I know the power situation is a bit low, but still. Well, there we go. But yeah, as you can see, the design philosophy, very old, very... yeah, it could be done better, as said. But this is the thing. This was the first time they attempted something like this. So, yeah, naturally, we weren't going to figure this shit... Naturally, it wasn't going to be figured out, in one go. And there are definitely some really cool moments. You've got a very nice lived-in interior with some impressive arrays. And again, as a refueling ship goes, it does its job. It goes into and out of the zones to get that stuff. It's a bit of a maze when you want to try and get yourself out and onto the thing. So I'm going to quickly just jump across the top and boop. There you go. I will gladly trade 1% of health. I suppose I should have a look at the top thing there. Damn it. So close. But yeah, I have very seldom needed to see this vessel or use this vessel, but as we're now approaching 4.0 and fuel, logistics, and other means of safeguarding transportation is less likely to be around, we may see a bit of a resurgence in the usage of this thing, because when this thing first became actually usable... Okay, that's pretty cool. So you can actually have fuel pods and everything else. I've never actually seen this before. Oh, you can actually detach them as well. I mean, I'm not going to, but... My God, it is... I just thought... I remember years ago talking about how these things could be a really good fuel air bomb if filled with the right kind of material. But, yeah, let's not put that to the test. Oh, you can also access the thing from the sides here as well, which is pretty cool. But, yeah, overall, I would say the Freelancer... the Starfarer is a good ship, and I think we may start to see some... We may start to see additional vessels coming out of the woodwork to maybe replace this vessel or to do better than this vessel. But at the same time, you need to have a Mark 1. There needs to be a learning curve, and CIG learned a lot from the player base, from playing this ship and everything else. And yeah, she's not a pretty ship under any circumstances, but there's a bit of a charm to it. But it is still an ugly piece of shit. There is also the Starfarer Gemini variant, which doesn't really change anything except in the chin area here, you've got 9 size 3 missiles, which I think if you're having to fire the missiles on the Starfarer, you're not in the right place. I'll be brutally honest with you. So, now that we've talked about the Starfarer series, let's have a look at the latest in the greatest. Star coming soon, coming soon. Well, it's already here, because I've seen this thing out in the verse already. In fact, I did a little bit of a session with the guys over at Star Prime, whereupon we murdered some Idrises, and I saw this little beauty in action. So this is the Starlancer Max. So the Starlancer Max is the latest vessel in the MISC's itinerary, and it looks fairly similar to their Odyssey vessel, which when we get to that little section, I'm sure you'll be able to see. And agree. But this is my first initial looking at this vessel. I actually saw this first time back in the CitizenCon event when we saw all of this stuff. And I'm not going to lie, my first thoughts is, it's a bit rubbish, isn't it? I mean, okay, so first of all, I'm a little concerned at the lowness of the door. Like, there's not much of a overhead space in terms of the cargo bay. So that could be problematic for anything larger than an Ursa, so I don't think we're going to get a huge amount in. So for ground Vix, you're only going to probably get an Ursa and probably a few Cyclones, but nothing too dramatic. Though you could probably fit 2 Ursas in here. So space-wise internally, that's fine, unless this is also meant for cargo, which could be a possibility. There's a lift over there. I mean, internally, it looks wonderful. I mean, we've got the interactables over there. We have the systems over there, I see. Okay. We're looking through. We've also got 2 lifts on either side, which we'll have a look at into in a moment. So this is the thing that's unique about the Freelancer Starlancer Max, is it's got its internal cargo bays can actually be opened out and lifted. I'm going to see if I can do that. Yes. No, that's the door, isn't it? Yes, okay. So where's the bit for the button? Oh, is that it? Okay, there's the bit for the button. So these things can... Yeah, you go. See? So yeah, you can basically have the cargo bay open up, and all of the cargo can then be placed upon the bottom, and whoever doesn't want to step on the planet can still look below. To be fair, what you could also have, and I'm just thinking about this now, you could totally do this as an airdrop. Like, you could, like... Yeah, you could be on, like, an approach to a combat destination, and they're like, right, lads, get ready! And then the bay goes down. And so the thing, as the ship's coming into position, these things open up, and then you basically have guys jumping off to the side. That'll be kind of funny. There you go. Paratrooper Freelancer. There we go. That works. So there's that one. So moving on into the central core, we've got... Okay, there's the airlock. Okay. Oh, ladder towards it. Good. Always nice to have a ladder. And here's another lift. So there's a lot of lifts in this ship. And this must be some kind of... Okay, weapons rack, suit manufacturer. Okay, so this must be like the airlock / suit hold. I do like the internals. Does look nice. Right. Oh, I am going to assume that's the airlock. Yeah, that's the airlock. If we close it. Oh, okay. So there's the door for that one. Right, we're going to hop into a ladder. Because... You know me and elevators, don't trust them. Right, so we're now on the upper habitation deck. We'll go to the bridge first of all, and we'll kind of go from back to front and front to back. So there's the escape pods. Okay, fair enough. And we make our way into the... Oh, okay, this is very fancy. This is very, very fancy. So we got remote turret seat, component access, and... If we open this on avionics, okay. And I'm guessing this is also for like life support and stuff, right? Probably. Yeah, there you go, radar display. So then we have the bridge, so the co-pilot and pilot, and oh, for God's sake, yeah, here we go. Typical MISC fucking cockpit. You need a pair of binoculars to see out the front. Like, one of my big complaints about MISC ships in general is this right here. Oh, I can't use the mouse pointer, of course. So this right here, where the mouse pointer is, where I'm moving this thing here, all of this is totally unnecessary. I know it's a staple now of MISC ships, so you can't shake it from them. But this is so irritating because you can't see jack shit. Maybe to the left, and well, actually, no, you can't to the right. Like, when it comes to flying these vessels, it is an absolute ball ache when it comes to maneuvering all of this stuff. And I just personally find it so frustrating, considering that MISC is also the ship manufacturer who made the Prospector. Now, the Prospector, in comparison, is the best in-ship cockpit I have ever had the pleasure to see. And I don't know why they can't lean more into that than they can into the other variant, which is the fucking overhanging lip to beyond redemption lark. Oh, so irritating. But no, I would say this is so far a pretty impressive ship. My main beef with this vessel, though, is the... yeah, life support. My main beef, though, when it comes to this ship is it's very, very much luxury in comparison to most vessels I've been in terms of cargo. It's very luxurious. Like, you could definitely have an extended stay. It's got a pool table. That's another ship with a pool table. You've got a big point from me, game. That if you put a pool table in, I like you. Ooh, we got multiple choice. Nice. So if we go this way, we get a view of internal. And what's this? Is this the captain's room? No, this is a Oh shit! Oh my god, that's a double bed and a toilet. This is very luxurious for a... Are you sure we're not playing on a Origin Jumpworks? Seriously, this is huge. Like, but okay, so going back to my particular frustration of this thing, this is kind of the reason why I'm finding it frustrating. Look at all of this space that is being taken up with habs, taken up with equipment, toiletries. Does it have a... It has a working mirror! And the Nightmare Fuel has gone through again. Oh my god, working! Doesn't show the helmet, sadly, but it does work, so that is cool. I'm going to have to pay attention to that now. But still, like, if you notice all of the internals, yes, okay, it's super luxurious and someone's clearly losing their mind. This is what happens when you look at the mirror for too long. When you're wearing a helmet, you kind of lose the plot. And, yeah, another lost soul. But no, the reason why I'm having such a hark on about this is, imagine if we could just strip away a large portion of this. Imagine how much more space you could have. Like, double beds, okay, it's nice to have a double bed, but you are a cargo ship. You could easily, if they scrapped a shit ton of the space in this vessel that they're using for, like, luxuries and other elements, you would find this ship having at least twice, if not thrice, the room, and instead of having only 224 SCUs worth of cargo, you could push it to like 400, maybe even 500, and that would be so much more useful in my eye than having all of this big-ass space for anything else like that. So that's the reason why I'm not exactly a huge fan of this ship, is it's so luxurious, it's half forgetting it's a cargo vessel. You're not supposed to have luxury. It's supposed to be livable, which, go to a fucking Argo ship and you'll see exactly what I mean, but it shouldn't be at the point where I'm feeling like I'm in an Origin Jumpworks, which this is what it does. It's got a pool table, which... God damn it, it looks like a really good pool table, and I really want to play pool. But still, it's still very luxurious. It's still very impressive. And yes, it would work incredibly well if you're on a long-distance mission. But you're not. And there are so many more ships now that have so much more cargo space inside that it just to me just seems disappointing. We'll go to the lower deck. You know? It just feels disappointing. I feel like they could have done more with this, and they didn't. And that's a real shame, because I think that would be, honestly, it would be a real treat. But at the moment, all I can see is that... Oh, okay, so there's the lift coming out of it. Fair enough. And... Oh, okay, yeah. But yeah, so no, I mean, as said, the Starlancer is... the Starlancer Max, in my opinion, is... Oh, nice! I actually... I had that on passively, didn't think... Wait, does that mean it counts? I'm sorry. I just have to quickly check to see something if it actually counts, because I tried doing the mission for the. Anyway, sorry. I was doing a bunch of the missions with friends in the Star Prime org, and despite completing it like the 3 times, it didn't count the 3rd time. So I'm like, right, fuck you. I'm gonna just log it on and we'll do whatever. So yeah, now they've done that, and I got money. Oh, that's so stupid. But no, to summarize, back to the main point. To summarize this particular ship, the Starlancer Max, I personally dislike. I don't think it's very useful. I think it's too luxurious, and I think that you could have easily gotten at least 200 more SCUs worth of cargo out of that vessel, and certainly could have done a bit more. The one version of this I am interested in is the Starlancer BLD, or build. That one is going to have a dedicated building capacity facility with 2 drones to be able to do the construction and stuff. That I'm vastly more interested in, well, for kind of obvious reasons. There is also a tactical version, figure quote tac, which has a kind of AC-130 vibe where you've got 2 massive guns on the side of the vessel, but at the same time it's not quite... Like, it works, but it's not really working, if that makes any sense. But no, like, the Starlancer is an interesting ship. It just doesn't interest me, if that makes any sense at all. And, okay, so it's got size 4s. Oh, no, those are size 4 Rhino repeaters on the top. And we've got some M5As over there. And there are a couple of remote turrets on the side that the players can get to utilize. So, so the ship can defend itself. But again, for only 224 SCUs worth of cargo, that's nothing. In comparison to what we've got now, you'd be better off with the price tag you're paying, you'd be better off with a bigger ship, or a much better ship. So, we enter into the first of the big rooms, and before we get stuck into the cargo, I thought I'd go through the smaller and other vessels before we really get into the meat of what MISC is all about, as well as Mirai. So, the first ships we're looking at is the Reliant series. This one is the Reliant Core. This is a starting vessel with a limited amount of cargo capacity, about 6 SCUs worth, but it has a decent array of weapons. Now, what makes this particular ship unique is that it kind of has a B-Wing vibe, which I actually have, to be fair, since they've changed the controls for it, but I've recently learned it's basically, I think, left Alt and K, or right Alt and K, I think. No, actually, I think it should just be left Alt and K, which is kind of a cool thing, because what you can have is that the thrusters becoming VTOL, regardless of whether you're in this mode or not, which I personally think is a really cool feature. So, in terms of handling and in terms of flying capability, I've actually been able to have I've actually taken this particular girl out for a spin, and while sadly as a starter ship she does lack a crucial feature, which is, of course, a bed, she does have, as mentioned, a pretty good cargo bay, which is up to 6 SCUs worth, which I think is a really nice amount. So if we hop into the pilot seat, the other thing that I like about this particular ship is we also have we have a luxury of an absolutely beautiful cockpit view. Again, this is MISC we're talking about here, and this is the kind of the thing that I wanted to mention, of course, is that MISC has done cockpits like this before. You can see where you can see on the upper areas here where the MFDs would be located alongside this upper regional here. So, okay, in terms of, like, view, you're going to have to look up and look around, which is a little bit of a pain in the arse. But apart from that, it is absolutely fantastic. You can look down when you're landing. You can even see the ground below you as you land. And I just think, why doesn't MISC do more of these things? Because it's so much better. Oh my god. Anyway, in terms of starter ships also, she has quite a powerful array of weapons, which I didn't exactly think you would on a ship like this. So, first of all, you've got 4 size 2 Ignite 2 missiles, and apparently a size 2 size 5 Reliant missile launcher cap, which, okay, this is going by the wiki here, don't quite know what that is, but hey-ho. But the other more important factor is you have a 2 times Badger repeaters, which is located over there, and on the turret elements as well, you have a tractor beam, which is the size 2 tractor beam, which is pretty impressive, but you also have another Badger repeater or 2 more size 2 Badger repeaters on the wing as well. Now, obviously, this particular variant is, as this is the beginner variant, so it's not too bad. And in terms of price, it actually is the same price as the Crusader Intrepid, being at 65 war bond, or 60 war bond and 65 on standalone. So if you're looking to get into Star Citizen and you're looking at a vessel that has a unique property to it, this one could be your good one. This could be a good bet for you. Now, the downside is, as mentioned, it doesn't have a bed, so if you can't bed log anywhere. And in terms of living amenities, you don't really have any. It'll only be the shit in your backpack that you take with you, which, okay, Novikov backpack can last you quite a while, but you still will need to come into port eventually and resupply and rearm, which is a bit of a shame. But in terms of combat, I have taken this thing into a couple of combat missions, like lower scale, nothing no, you can't do like an ERT with that. But if you did want to start doing some things like a light bounty hunting or anything else like that, this thing is perfect for you. Seriously, it is mental how good this thing is. Anyway, it's mental how surprisingly good this is. Going on into the next vessel, we have the Reliant Tanner, which, as you can already see, has a lot more bite than its bark. We've got 2 size 3 Panther repeaters on the side there, and we also have 2... Is that another 2 size 3s? So they actually completely changed how they look for that one, because I'm fairly certain. Yeah, so the missile racks have gone even bigger. You've got 16 size 2 Strike Force 2 missiles and 4 size 2 4 size 2 Ignite 2 missiles as well. And on the turret thing there, you've got 2 size 3 Panther repeaters, and on the Vari Park, we've got it's just 2 Badger repeaters for that one. So you've got 2 size 3s and 2 size 2s. Really good combination. Downside of this variant is that you only get 1 SCU's worth of storage. But the good news is you do get a bed, you do have some living amenities, and as a starter-esque ship goes, it's not that much more expensive. Only standalone of 75 and a war bond of 65. So not a huge amount of increase in price, but a vastly larger amount in terms of Dakka. So if you want to do the occasional box mission and drop off a couple of things, you do have that option. And if you need to drop off some corpses and stuff, I think there is an internal locker system somewhere in here. But still, like, it does give you quite a decent amount. And to be fair, you also have a co-pilot seat as well, which is nice. So if you have a friend who wants to do the occasional flying, you can do so as well. So not a bad vessel to start with as well. And it's a lot more bang for your buck for that one. I might personally take this... I might actually use the Tanner out for a little bit, just to see what it's like, because... when I took out the Reliant core, I was pleasantly surprised it was able to handle itself quite well. So I'm hoping that we can get more of the same, but even more so from the Reliant Tanner. As we make our way across to the other side, we are presented with 2 not so militarily focused vessels, but one that has been adapted to work within fleet structure. This is the Reliant Sen. As you can see, it's traded its guns for scanners. Now, it does have some limited form of defense with 2 Badger repeaters and a couple of size 3 missiles on the side, more or less the same armament, just smaller in number. But instead of a weapons platformer system, you instead have a holographic display for the co-pilot, as well as a scientific suite for anyone wanting to research anything fancy, which is fair enough. You even have a little tiny glove space as well, which is kind of cool, as well as the usual living amenities. Going into the cockpit, once again, more or less the same as before, nothing too fancy, but this particular variant is designed with scanning in mind. It has a pre-configured scanner seat with an additional component upgrades to extend the range, and it also allows you to, well, it's become apparently, it can, not saying it will in the Star Citizen sense, but it may be something that will happen, is that the scanning systems in this, because of its improved scanning range, it does make it quite a valuable asset for fleets wanting to keep an eye on things. So who knows, maybe the Science Edition will be quite useful. And finally, we're moving on to the last in the series, the Reliant Mako. So the Reliant Mako is very much a reporter's vessel. as you can see by its brightly yellow colors. It's trading its gun and firepower means its firepower means for the ability to get the best shot. As you can see by the editing studio here. So if you may recall, in previous IAEs, you may have seen Jax McCreary's video series where he actually worked from the back of this thing. So if you're running an independent film studio or anything else like this, you may be used to seeing this particular vessel. But yeah, no, I'd say it's not a bad little billet. Gives you some. To be fair, I'm not entirely sure if this vessel is actually going to be used in game, but it'll be kind of cool because I mean, if you're going for like a lore-esque sort of thing, like if you're going to report on what's going on in the verse or anything like that, because for example, in like games like Squad or Starship Troopers Exterminatus or anything else like that, you have such things as like reporters just coming in randomly RPing that kind of stuff. Maybe we could see something equivalent of that, like United Earth Empire News or something like that, UEEN, just something. That'd be kind of cool. I think it would be really hilarious to see one of these things flying around a battlefield and like everyone's just having a massive firefight and they're like, wait, don't shoot the reporter. So, we've looked at the small but powerful vessels that have a pretty impressive record and provide some unique challenges to anyone who wants to introduce themselves into the verse. Now let's look at a trio of angry hornets that you never want to encounter in your life, otherwise that life will become very short. I introduce to you Mirai's first ship, the Fury, and it's a very fitting name. The Fury is what I would describe as, an angry hornet. It is a single-seat, no quantum drive snub fighter with enough firepower to make anyone have nightmares. It has 4 size 2 Badger repeaters with 4 size 2 Ignite 2 missiles. This thing's main strength is not so much its firepower, though it's very terrifying considering it's such a small platform, but its high level of maneuverability as well. Both in and out of Atmo, it uses Xi'an technology to get the most out of its its agility and its maneuverability to basically fuck over anything in front of it. And also, what's terrifying is that this thing can be considered a legitimate vessel to put into your Polaris, as players have already experimented and said, yeah, I can fit 17 of these things. In fact, to be fair, when this thing first came out a couple years ago, it was only last year. Christ, it feels like an age since then. But still, since last year that it came out, I joked around with friends saying, yeah, could you imagine attacking a caterpillar, for example, thinking to yourself as a pirate, oh, look at me, arg, me mateys, we're about to collect some rather good booty, and then the doors open up and it's like, oh, they're surrendering a little faster, makes it a little bit more tasty for us. Shame we didn't get a bit of a fight out of it, but... And then all of a sudden you just see a fucking hornet's or like a swarm of these little bastards. All I can imagine that next pirate will be going is, I want my mummy. So going on to the Fury MX, someone apparently looked at the Fury and said, not enough missiles. Or if someone asked the question, how many missiles do you want on a Fury? The answer was yes. So it discards all of its physical weapons. Well, it discards all of its DACA for missile instead. So it now has 8 size 2 Ignite 2s, 8 size 1 Marksman 1s, and then another 8 size 2 Ignite missiles. So we've got 12 size 2 Ignite missiles and 8 size 1 missiles. Jesus fucking Christ. I've never in my life seen such anger inside a small platform. It is ridiculous. But still, it is there. You have accessible components. Whether or not you lived long enough to see those components is another matter. But if you need to get on... if you have a ship that you want to dedicate as a carrier, I could think of no snub fighter better. Considering the size of these things, you could even fit it into the back of a goddamn Freelancer Max, which is impressive. I think even just a bog standard Freelancer you could fit in the back of as well. You'd only get the one, but you can fit it. So yeah, fun times be had. Finally, we have the Fury LX, which trades away all of its firepower capacities and instead gives it into racing, which is nice because that's what it's probably designed for. Very nice carbon fiber. So all of the racers out there will get to look into this ship and have some very impressive things. That's a new brand. Yorm. Okay, I'm kind of curious as to what Yorm is. But still, so as you can see, it looks a lot nicer, a lot smoother, a lot slicker, and it gets some pretty cool sponsors on the side. So what we'll do is we'll hop into the cockpit of this thing, just because, again, the Fury is rage incarnate. But I'm also going to highlight, once again, the kind of cockpit that we get with these things. I mean, okay, this is Mirai, not so much MISC, so obviously process is different, but still you can kind of agree from this particular perspective how a snub fighter like this would be an absolute bloody nightmare to encounter on that one. Seriously. Because obviously it wouldn't just be one Fury you'd be dealing with. On the minimum, again, 17 of these things would be coming out of a Polaris. If you were to have multiple Polarises dedicated with these guys inside, dear God Emperor, you would be visiting the Golden Throne faster than you can say what. So, as we go from the relatively new vessels, we now go to, I say relatively new, we now go to some of the oldest gems in Star Citizen. This is the Freelancer. This was the standard, well, this was the representation of MISC for pretty much the entirety of Star Citizen's existence until recently with the Hull series, to be brutally honest with you. And to be fair, this vessel still has a lot of applicability in mind. It's old, and it certainly hallmarks some of the first big problems with the MISC series of ships, but I feel that it's still kind of a good vessel to work with and work against, depending on if you're the kind of person who shoots at these things. I did used to own one of these for a while. It was actually one of the ships I upgraded to. It was weird. I didn't go for the Cutlass Black, but I did go for the Freelancer Max. I think it was because I saw the Freelancer Max. That's the one I actually wanted to go for, after a while, but we'll get to that in a second. So the Freelancer Bog Standard Edition actually has been making some improvements since then, because you may recall in previous IAE and Invictus launch weeks, I would complain a lot about a certain functionality of the turret, which would result in these things blocking your ability to put vehicles into the ship. I can now say with hand on heart and happiness in notion, they did finally fix it, which is very nice. And as you can see, the internal cargo bay is also quite lengthy, up to 66 SEU's worth of cargo. But unfortunately, 3.24 has unfortunately revealed an issue with the Freelancer series, which kind of mimics the same issue that I was talking about with the Reclaimer. The ship is old. It's very old design, and I'm actually, if you haven't noticed it already, you can see a particular conundrum. Yeah, you're not getting 66 SCU's worth of cargo in this ship. You're getting like 50-something. Yeah, I'd say about 50-ish SCU's worth of cargo in here, because you can't fit the shit through the door. And I've tried, trust me. I tried using a Freelancer Max on occasion, and yeah, that basically wouldn't work at all, no. So this particular ship's main issue right now is it's too old. 324 has made this ship obsolete. Not completely, mind you, but enough that you would find that this ship becomes more of a hamper and a nuisance than something that is overly beneficial. Though it does have some nice glasses, I won't lie, and some towels, which is nice. But no, so the main thing about this ship is that it was designed all the way back in like 2012. I mean, it's, what, yeah, 18th of October, 2012. That's when this ship was released. So obviously, we have about 12 years worth of game design that, while this ship has received some minor upgrades and some tweaks and everything, it's still 12 years out of date in terms of ship design logic. So you can see, for example, well, you can see here there's 4 living accommodations for a ship that really doesn't need that many. Arguably, you could just have the 1 and it would be fine. To be fair, I think that would actually be kind of a thing you should do. But unfortunately, we don't have that, so here we go. The other thing, which is the big problem, which I'm going to be moaning about because it's my particular bugbears with this thing, is the fucking cockpit. It is ridiculous. Why the fuck does a cockpit need to have such a large bloody dashboard that you could put a chess piece set in the middle and play it alongside poker as well? It's ridiculous. It's not as bad as, for example, the larger vessels out there. Let's say, for example, the Hull series and the fucking Starlancer, but it's still large enough a problem that getting in and out of this thing is an absolute nightmare. So yeah, the issue with the Freelancer series, and again, I'm not shitting on this because I hate this thing, it's more just because I can see that this is something that if you're new to Star Citizen, getting this ship IRL with IRL money is not really a good shout. Like, I might need to think about making a video about ships you need to avoid paying with real money, because otherwise you might find that the money you've put into this thing may be better spent elsewhere. Not to say that I'm not saying, I'm not trying to discourage people from buying ships in this game. I'm just saying that there are ships that if you do spend real money on, you may feel like you've been hard done by. So there is another way you can also get out, which for some reason you can't in the display model. But you can see here, there's a ladder, there's a door and everything. This is something that you can get out on the side, but you can also get out this way. There is also an airlock, which does work. But again, it's one of those things that if you're in Atmo, you're not really going to be benefiting from. And this ship really doesn't need the options. I think a rework is definitely necessary to keep this ship relevant, because aside of having about 50 SCUs worth of cargo and a pretty reasonable amount of weapons, I mean, in terms of weapons and equipment, you do have 4 size... What was it? Have they changed the thing? No, yeah. You do have 4 size 3 M5A cannons, and you do have a turret on the top with a couple of Badger repeaters on it. But the issue is that I don't really feel the Freelancer needs additional crew. This vessel feels more and more like a solo job, or at the very least, a ship, maybe, I mean, 2 at the most. At the most. But I'll be honest with you, again, I think you could get rid of the... You could get rid of the size 2 turrets at the top and maybe place them down as additional mounted guns on the bottom area here, change the interior so that you only have enough space for 1 pilot, and open out the cargo bay, and that pretty much would sort you perfectly. I think this ship is more designed for now solo players rather than for 2 players. I mean, there are enough ships out there that are trying to imitate being the Cutlass Black. I think we can have some ships roll for themselves if that's the case. Now, this particular ship, you don't really see outside of IAE or Invictus Launch Week? I want to say it's Invictus Launch Week, but no, I know you don't. It's only in IAE. Yeah, this is the Freelancer DUR, or I'm going to be saying, duh, because every time I see this, duh, I'm sorry, no. the Freelancer, duh, is not a good name, and as such, I will highlight that by describing it in perfect form. Now, this is an exploration craft designed with scientific discovery in mind, as well as longevity in service. So it's got a fuel converter, which, oh, it must have heard my door. It doesn't like me. It's like, fuck you. I don't like you anymore. No, but the Freelancer, duh, has the same internal systems. Oh, there we go. Has the same internal systems as before. Slightly less cargo capacity, but now has its living amenities, as well as a tiny cargo bay inside, a fuel converter as well, which is pretty cool. And once again, the same living accommodations as before. Same sort of deal. Yeah, nothing too... You know, it's the variants that don't have a huge amount of longevity to them, but still does the job. But yeah, like, it does the job. Its purpose is to be a scientific... Oh, one-way mirror. Its purpose is to be a scientific explorer with additional fuel tanks and the ability to convert fuel in a much more efficient way. So overall, a pretty cool-looking vessel. The weapons on it are not too bad. I mean, the Freelancer, for missiles, I forgot to mention the missiles on the original Freelancer. You've got 4 size 3 missiles and 4 size 2 missiles. On the Freelancer, the vessel has a little bit less in terms of weaponry. Has a couple of 4 size 3s and 4 size 2s. And on the front, instead of having M5As, you've got attrition repeaters, which is not bad. To be fair, attrition's pretty good weapons. I don't know if they still have that stat on them that says that the hotter they get, the more damage they do, but considering the capacitors have limited amounts of ammunition, maybe they might be able to convert that fact in. But who knows? Continuing on our particular quest, we now move over to the Freelancer Max, my personal favourite in the Freelancer series. And unfortunately, I ended up kind of having a sad day with this thing when I tried to stream once, which resulted in me discovering the horrible truth that 324 made the Freelancer series obsolete. Because with the introduction of the physicalized cargo, as we saw earlier, the Freelancer's Max's 120 SCUs worth of cargo is actually kind of less now. I would say we're looking at maybe 100 to 110, maybe even as low as 90. I want to say it's about 110 SCUs worth of cargo in here. Same kind of foray though, but to be fair also, this is a really good ship for anyone wanting to get themselves introduced into cargo. Unfortunately though, since the update to since 324 came out, I can't honestly recommend this vessel to anyone who's like seriously wanting to get into cargo holding. Or at least I'd say to people, okay, if you want to get into it, it's a good ship. All of the Freelancer series of ships, really maneuverable, even the Max. It's a little bit wider than other vessels, and when fully laden, it's a bit of a slug when it comes to maneuvering. Like, tiny amounts of impact, mainly when you're in atmo. In space, same kind of maneuverability, no trouble. But, and same goes for low-grav planets as well. I found that it maneuvers quite well on low-grav. But when it's having any kind of cargo on higher gravity things, yeah, that's when problems start. But overall, the Freelancer Max, I would say, is a great ship to start with, but be advised, you're not getting the full cargo capacity. It's definitely you need to buy it in game currency rather than with IRL cash currency. And finally, let's have a look at the missile boat that MISC has decided to inflict upon the world. So the MISC variant of ships has a slightly... Oh, actually, they replaced the Gatling guns. Ooh, okay. So they changed out the weapons for M3As once again, which is fair. But instead of having just a few missiles, you instead have a fuck ton of them. 10 size 3s with an additional 10 size 3 Thunderbolt 3s with an additional 8 size 3 Arrestor 3 missiles. Jesus Christ. This thing is ridiculous. In fact, I think if we go to here, yeah, you can see all of the missile pods all set up on the side. It is crazy. And this thing is, yeah, this particular vessel is designed purely as a missile spam. I said, missile boat. It's not really designed to do anything else except fire its complement of missiles and then bug out as soon as possible. But it still has a bit more defensibility. It's got some pretty decent guns on it. I mean, the M5As are pretty impressive, and and also it has its turret repeater. Same goes for like the Max as well. Actually, no, the Max doesn't have turret, does it? Oh no, it does. It does. It just not as. I think that one just has a simple turret on the back, doesn't it? Yeah, I think it's just the usual Panther. Oh, it's got the Panther repeaters on the turret, so that's fine. And on the Freelancer MISC, it also has, yeah, the Panther repeaters on the back. So, defensibility-wise, both the Freelancer Max and the Freelancer MISC are pretty solid when it comes to defending itself. Obviously, the Freelancer MISC is going to be far better in combat, but still, the Freelancer series overall is a really versatile craft that can do quite a lot for the solo pilot. I mean, I said, when I used to fly this thing way back when, like, this was like maybe, I want to say almost 2017. Like, maybe mid to late 2017, when I was still sort of periodically hopping onto Star Citizen, I would I got myself a freelancer, and I started sort of getting into it. Then it was when in 2018, early 2018, that's when I really started using the freelancer, because it was such a good ship. Obviously, times have changed since then, and the design template for this thing is still the same. But I think a few little tweaks here and there could bring these vessels right back into the form, which I hope they do soon, because it's a really good ship, and it'd be a shame to leave it otherwise. So, we now return to the cargo bay, because I wanted to show this ship in its full form, and also to showcase one of the more unique things about the Hull series that gives it its edge over potential conflict with other vessels. So this is the Hull A, the starter ship in the Hull series. Now, for those who don't know, the Hull series of ships has a rather unique property, which we're going to hop into the vessel to have a look into. And I'm not going to lie, this is something that I personally find fascinating as subject go, because it has the ability to be... let me just quickly enter the ship. There we go. Perfect. There we go. So one of the things I find to be rather fascinating as a ship, if we hop into the little interior bay here. So the Hull A is a dedicated cargo ship transportation and is part of the Hull series of ships, famously known as the most common vessels in the Star Citizen universe. But one of the things that makes this ship rather unique, if I raise up the old things, turn off the... Now, what button is it to open up the foils? Yes, there we go. Cargo spindle. So this has a cargo spindle which opens out and turns into an exterior cargo bay, which is really, really cool. So I'm going to lower this thing down. Does this thing have VTOL? Don't think this thing has VTOL, does it? No, it doesn't. But still. And there goes the engines. Perfect. So we'll have a quick talk about the interior cockpit. And unfortunately, this vessel still suffers from the MISC issue of the cockpits, but it's not as bad as its larger counterparts. It's bearable. Like, there's a lot of the space which is taken up by usable bits of information, including the new MFD systems and displays, and there's also the button things at the top here, which, unfortunately, because they're so far fucking away, they don't even render properly, but that's besides the point. The main aspect, though, is that this ship is designed to be a cargo vessel, with the cargo being on the outside, which we'll just have a wee bit of a look at the moment. We want to just hit the open button. And I'll just open ladder, so that way then it should be able to allow us exit into that one. So we'll go through and have a look from the outside, but let's have a little bit look on the interior. So this is one of the more modern designs for the hull, for MISC in general, and you can see the lessons that they've learnt from other vessels, such as from the freelancers and other things. You can see that there's living accommodations, there's a bed which is a lot more streamlined, but it's also much more compact, and it gives you the ability, it gives you the vibe and the feeling of, yes, this thing can be done solo, yes, you have some levels of luxuries more than, say, a Drake Interplanetary, but at the same time, you're still sadly, non-working mirrors. Oh well, we've been spoilt with those things. But as said, even though you have functional, like living in accommodations and everything else, it's all designed to be as utilitarian as possible with a slight flair to it. You've got limited space, you've got limited amounts of weapons and equipment. You're not going to be doing this stuff along there. Mostly you'll be traveling. It's like one of those truckers. It's like one of those 18-wheelers in America. Most of the time, you're going to be traveling via trucks. And this is the device that you will be transporting your cargo with. Now, I had the luxury of in doing one of the PTUs before I think 323, 324. I think it was when 323 or 324. I remember one of the PTUs where the cargo patch was being introduced. The these little spindles prove to be quite useful, especially with the hauling jobs. Like in the early hauling jobs, which allows you to take a limited amount of cargo, which of this particular ship has a unique property in its cargo spindles that because you can have your cargo on the outside and you're not limited by the size of your ship, this thing can carry up to 64 SCUs worth of cargo. And that's basically where you can stack the boxes on each side and being able to get an absolute bugger ton of them on board, which is ridiculous. But at the same time, really useful. And this is where the question will be starting to be asked. Do you want to trade safety and security for sheer amount of cargo? Because each particular version of the Hull series has an exponentially larger amount of cargo that could be earning you an absolute bugger ton in profits, which I'm not going to lie, I'm quite a big fan of. And also I'm quite a big fan of taking a large amount of supplies and putting them to good use on, let's say, an outpost, a base, or even maybe a space station. You know, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, Citizen Con. Or Nix. Oh. Anyway. But yeah, this particular ship I like, and I do kind of want to at some point when I seriously think more about doing cargo hauling or anything like that, I may more seriously take into account the cargo hauling and actually go for it to a certain extent, especially if said cargo hauling gives us the rather unique property of getting an absolute bugger ton of profits. Ah, the Hull Sea. The most common starship in the galaxy is as it's listed, and it certainly earns that reputation considering what it has the capacity to do. Now, if you want to have a look-see at what this thing looks like when it's open, then there you go. This thing is ridiculous. The model is absolutely gorgeous. There's actually a really cool bit on the outside, which I might film as well. But still, this is a really, really cool model. But it also shows just what kind of carrying capacity the Hull Sea takes. And when you look at the stats of this thing, you'll see why it's so terrifyingly large. 4,608 SCUs worth of cargo. That's bloody ridiculous. And when you see, and obviously what was even cooler is that when you're looking at ships, or when you was looking at CitizenCon with the videos that are now, it's been out for a while now, but when you're looking at CitizenCon and the videos of this thing coming towards a station or coming towards Nix, I can't wait. Yeah, there was quite a rapport. Well, there was quite a lot of cargo that was being hauled off this thing, and so the potential for money to be made off these kind of vessels is ridiculous. I mean, for me personally, I quite like the idea of an open-top cargo thing, but obviously it does beg the question, is it? What kind of cargo hauler do you imagine yourself going to be? And here's the docking bay. So for most people, this is probably how they're going to get into the ship, but there is the opportunity for people to hop in on the side. You also have, so you have in the introduction area the wonderful array of you have the wonderful array of escape pods, very encouraging when you get onto the ship for the first time. And you've got a lower section and an upper section of the vessel, which is pretty cool. Similar to the Starlancer, but in my opinion, done a lot better, seeming as, well, a lot of this stuff is designed with, yes, okay, it's like slightly luxurious in mind, but it still is all about the efficiency in terms of its spacing. You go over to here, and you're immediately in the bridge. You've got simplistic controls, and once again, the giant fuck off. the cockpit display. But you do have a bridge, which is pretty cool, and you have a captain's thing, and I'm guessing that's meant to be the engineering station, which obviously isn't a thing as of yet, unless this is meant to be the engineering station. No, it's not. One day, it might be. Anyway, going up into the second floor, we pop into this thing. I mean, this thing is a much larger ship, but as you can see, the living quarters, very simplistic. One and done. Which, in terms of privacy, good luck, but I'm thinking you could probably close these clasps down and be set, which, I'm not going to lie, looks kind of nice and tucked in rather nicely. You also have storage components over here, as well as a single bathroom and everything else. But in my opinion, this feels a lot more like a cargo ship that you would like, because everything is okay. We're in a big ship, so there is going to be the obvious slightly larger stuff, but in this particular respect, look at this. Nice. You get this is the engineer's set. So this is where you'll have all of the different people's like equipment and everything else. You get the tools you get the know-how and everything, which I quite like. And if we pop over to here, okay, thank you very much, ladder, we appreciate it. And then if we make our way towards here, we then have the giant, which does actually extend as well. It does actually have the extendable, oh god, yeah, which will have the extendable scaffolding systems. At the moment, obviously not extended, but it's still all utilitarian. It all has space in mind because of how it works. And then you have a giant ladder which takes you up to the top here, which is pretty cool. So I quite like it. Does it take you up to the top? No, it just takes you up to the second floor, which then takes you into a separate engineering bay, which allows you to run around and have a look at some of the components, which obviously now as we start to see, is this a drone? No, this is just an escape pod, where another component is. Yeah, battery component bay with an escape pod. Gotcha. But no, so you can see you can have access to the components onto this thing, and then you make your way towards the scary generator. But it gives you a lot more utilitarian in space, and I much prefer this kind of design mechanics over such things as the Starlancer, which is all about space because space. I don't know. It's my particular bugbear for that one. And there is the open top hatch for the for the Hull series, which is nice. If you ever, by the way, if you're ever wanting to get onto the Starlancer for the Hull C without doing whatever, you can come to this door, and hopefully you're in a point where you can get your gun out and shoot the door open, and then that should be fine. I have actually had the luxury of being able to salvage this vessel. It happened twice. So the first time was during, I think, on both occasions. If you may recall some of my earlier streams as well for this particular game, you may no doubt know, you may no doubt be aware of the time I was doing this thing during the blockade event for Star Citizen. Oh my god! Oh, that's hilarious. But yeah, no, I was able to scalp the entire thing pretty nicely as well, which is pretty hilarious. But yeah, so the Hull C, in my opinion, is a fantastic vessel, and I very much look forward. Oh, it's a bit high. I was gonna sort of jump out the side, but then I'm like, yeah, I might break my ankles doing that, so let's just play it safe. But no, I really like the Hull C. I'm kind of 50-50 when it comes to cargo hauling, whether or not I think I'll lean into doing the big hauling with the Hull C, or whether I would be more preferring to use internal cargoes. But I think the overall vibe I'm getting with the Hull series is it offers up an alternative play style, which I feel definitely needs to be, it's something that I think it needs to be in this kind of game, because having that option just makes it much more exciting. So the last vessel we approach before we go down in towards the holodeck area is my favorite ship cockpit of all time, and also one of my favorite mining vessels for a very, very long time. And to be fair, I kind of still like it a bit. I'm still kind of iffing over whether or not I prefer it over the mole, considering the fact that I haven't really had an opportunity to really go with the mole on some stuff. But regardless, this is the Prospector. This is your go-to mining vessel for pretty much anyone who is invested in mining in Star Citizen. She has 4 pods underneath, or on each side, which are detachable, and you can, if you're kind of cheesy, you can actually attach cargo pods in, which means you get an additional amount of cargo to haul into your Prospector. That is something that I wasn't aware of until like the more recent patches, but there you go. So you have an ability to get additional cargo pods into your Prospector, though again, you have to put them in a certain order, and it's not that easy. But you can do it, so I might as well thought I mentioned it. But the biggest thing I love about this particular vessel, aside of the fact that it's a very useful ship for not that much pricing, It also has some nice VTOL thrusters. It looks absolutely gorgeous, and it's a practical size, meaning that you can go anywhere. It's got a nice long landing gear, which means in most arduous terrain, you're not going to be caught out in the sticks without any too much issue. We go into the interior. You'll see additionally, you've got some pretty decent living accommodation. Now, she's not the youngest of vessels. You can even see some of the heritage parts from the Freelancer series making its way into it. This was designed and released around 2016, so we're looking at about 8 years worth of development in comparison to the more recent vessels. But even still, she still has that, it's got that vibe of modernness that still functions, and you can still do a lot with it. But my favorite thing of all time, and of course, toilets as well, because it's a MISC ship, you need supplies. Again, utilitarian but compact. But my favorite thing of all time is this. And I think once you see what I mean, you'll be in agreement. Just look at it. This is by far the best cockpit I've ever had the pleasure of playing in Star Citizen. There is very, very few vessels in Star Citizen. In fact, this is the only vessel in Star Citizen that I would say has the best cockpit. I mean, maybe the Reliant series, if I'm being brutally honest, and maybe the Aurora, but both of which aren't as fun to fly as this thing, and I love it. It is such a good cockpit, and it comes from the company of MISC, which just defies all sense and logic. Like, I never understand why MISC has such big, fat, ugly internal cockpits when you can make this. I want more ships like this, without a shadow of a doubt. Now, the good news, finger quote, the good news is that the more recent ship supposedly due to come out of the MISC grouping known as the Fortune, is apparently based upon this particular design frame. If that's the case, I will be over the moon, because my favorite cockpit in Star Citizen will be applied to the latest vessel in the fleets, which is dedicated for salvaging, and maybe even having a larger platform to work with when it comes to mining, perhaps. Perhaps we'll get some kind of competition for larger mining vessels, and if we get a larger mining vessel with this cockpit that you can use, the Mole's got company. The Mole is most definitely going to have as much as I like the Mole definitely has it's got some competition, to say the least. But this thing just oozes quality, and I absolutely love it. Now, the downside of this particular ship is that you only have access to a size 1 mining laser, and unfortunately in mining at the moment is very much a case of hit and miss. And what I mean by that is you are guaranteed to have some sessions where you can't find a single rock. Any rock you encounter is either 3 times the mass of your ship's weight, and you can't even begin to hope to touch it, or it's so pitifully small and the material inside is so pitifully wasteful, you might as well just run around gathering scrap for the amount of money that you're going to be making. And then there's days where you cannot do wrong, and you'll strike gold and find a giant wodge of Quantanium or Taranite, Laranite, or any of the other things, which I would say is pretty cool. Though one thing I will say in brief passing is we've yet to really see the true economy of Star Citizen. What I mean by that is, at the moment, everything is made for profit. Cargo hauling, combat, bounty hunting, all of that jazz. So naturally, any kind of mining is primarily... at the moment, mining is very much hit and miss, because you're not really gathering materials for any real purpose other than to sell. But when stuff like base building, base construction, other elements come into play, that's when we'll start to see a lot more feasibility for mining, because now, instead of just gathering up some materials to sell, you're now buying up materials to make weapons, equipment, ship components, ships themselves, all of that jazz, to be able to get the most out of your mining experience. And then with that in tow, you will start to see things like player refineries being considered to be much more attractive than if you were to go, for example, to any other place, which then of course means further job roles, further diversification of gameplay, which overall makes the experience vastly more fun. And I very much am craving the day that that thing starts to become a factor, because then I will be truly buggered when it comes to what other games I'll be able to play. So we approach the end of the day, and we have a little bit left to work with, but as with all things, they must come to an end. But first, let's look at the last area ships before heading to the holodeck. These are the Razor series, which originally was MISC, but then they got moved over to Mirai, as the vessels here are more related to racing than in actual combat. But that doesn't stop bandits and criminals and thieves and all the other kind of buggerations from attempting to do so. The Razor is a kind of, well, this particular variant is designed as a dedicated racing platform with some limited forms of defense. A couple size, I want to say size 2s. I always kind of am surprised whenever I see the kind of firepower that, yeah, too. I always think they're size 1s, and then I remember that they're size 2s. So you got a couple of size 2 Badger repeaters under this particular Vic, and it's very, very fast. In terms of its speed and agility, its SCM speed is 280, which is pretty fast for a small Vic, and it's... And it's 1.4.2 seconds, which is ridiculous. But no, the max speed of this thing in its cruise control is 1,450. Now, if you may recall from Crusader Day, the Intrepid was about 1,200 and something SCM speed. So that was a much larger vessel. So that's what makes the Intrepid such an impressive vessel, is that thing could kind of keep up with this thing, which is kind of ridiculous. So the other variant of the ship is the Razor LX, which has an overclocked engine, slightly reduced armaments, but instead can go even faster. This one can go up to speeds of the same 1,400 with 275. Oh, it's not actually that fast, but maybe it's a little bit more agile. So it's not it's a racer, but it has a pair of size 2s. Okay, so it is slightly slower, or maybe slightly faster, we're not too sure. But either way, this thing is a bit of a beast when it comes to going into fast lane areas. And then finally, we're presented with the Razor EX, which, going by the description, is basically a stealth variant of the Razor. It's all dark and evil and it basically was designed, from the description on the lore, it was designed, oh god, yeah, you can tell it was designed for the advocacy. They put fucking shotguns on it. But yeah, it was originally designed as a stealth vessel for the advocacy, but then MISC/Mirai would then later develop this particular ship for the public as well, which we'll hop into this one just because I think it'd be kind of nice. So I want to pop on the top. There we go. I'm in the seat. That counts, right? Yeah, no. Let's actually get into this. Let's actually get into this thing proper, shall we? Okay, let's go. So yeah, in terms of visibility, this thing is really quite good. Okay, you've got a pretty big interior frontal area here, but this thing is tiny. It's a snub fighter. It's not designed to really go anywhere very quickly. It's not really designed to go anywhere for any long distances. It's designed to get you in and out. There's an eject? No, there's no eject. Well, it's designed to get you in and out of a zone quickly, but not there to last forever. So overall, I'd say a pretty nice little craft, an absolute bastard when it comes to engaging them, because I've had the pleasure, or not the pleasure perhaps, of having to engage these little fuckers when you're trying to do some missions, maybe doing bounty hunting missions, or even just doing some of the more laborious raiding style missions. And whenever these little shits come into the battlefield, it is an absolute pain in the ass to deal with them, because one minute they're there, the next minute they're darting off into the distance, and it is an absolute pain to get that stuff sorted off you. And so we're once again at this point of the day where we have to look at the future of what MISC can send to us, as well as the stuff we can get ourselves hyped over. So without further ado, boom. Ah, okay. So it's the Endeavour. Okay. Yeah, this ship, I'm not going to lie. Not to be a Debbie Downer, but I don't think this ship is going to be possible. Or at least, not in the way that people are hoping. So, what the purpose of the Endeavour is, it's kind of the most ambitious goal of CIG ever. Like, as much as a lot of the as much as a lot of other mechanics have been proven to be successful, they are still, in my opinion, they are like technological marvels and updates. That's true, but then there's this ship, which is aiming to kind of be an everyman's thing, and somehow be possible. I don't think this vessel is going to be the way that people think it's going to be, and I don't think we're going to get it in the way that we're thinking we're going to get it either. So what exactly is the Endeavour? The Endeavour is a multi-module vessel which is designed to be able to have a number of like domes planted onto the side of it, and it would eventually then allow you to have science platforms, agricultural platforms, industry platforms, that sort of thing. And it's designed in a way to help people, it's designed to help people to sort of make a farm in space or something. And it also has, at the front here, a detachable module. This is why you've got engines on the front here as well as here, because there's supposedly a detachable point which allows you to, like the command module from an Ironclad or a Drake Caterpillar, be able to fly off and do its own thing and then return to it and then come back to it. Again, I don't think that's possible with this ship. I appreciate that they made a pledge and they're going to try and do their utmost to make this ship, but I would not feel too bad if they decided to say, you know what, this thing is an impossibility. This ship just is way above what is asking way too much for the kind of ship that you'd get, and I don't think it would work. I'm always wanting to be proven wrong, by all means. Like, I would love to be proven wrong. I think it would be incredible if I was proven wrong, and I hope I am wrong. But at the same time, I fear the scope of this particular ship is just a bit too much for what we're wanting to accomplish, and I don't think any version that CIG could make, I don't think we're going to get the thing that has been as it was. I can't see it. I personally cannot see it, but I, again, would love to be wrong. Definitely within that case. So, I think I know. Yes, this is the Eclipse. The Expanse. Yes, it is, isn't it? Is it? I'm going to go with yes. Yes, it is. Fantastic. Oh, they've really done some more details now. Oh, I'm liking this. Not liking the cockpit, because I know exactly what bastard they're going to do with that. But this, I like this a lot. So this is the Expanse, the first ever refining ship. The gameplay loop that we are... One of the... Oh, God. Have I stuck? Oh, thank the Emperor. I was a bit like, okay, I can actually now see into this thing. Wait, what? Ah, invisible wall time. Okay, we'll go around the other side. But no, the Expanse is the first time... It was the first ever concept ship to be announced that allows players to refine mineable goods. Now, obviously, the downside of this particular ship is that, well, if you're a miner, you're going to have to take your mining ship out, and then you take your mining ship out, and then you either have this thing on the backdrop, or you decide you need to... I mean, actually, to be fair, what you could probably do is fly the Prospector out, because this would normally be like a Prospector, or to a degree an Argo, but I don't know if they're willing to accept Argo bags. But you take basically the mineable sacks, these little things here, and then you connect them up, and then you refine the goods. Now, I am unsure, again, if they're going to do Argo, but that's a separate subject. I am unsure as to the kind of... if you are a solo mining crew or a limited crew... I mean, if you have like 2 people, then problem solved. But if you're a solo miner, I'm kind of wondering how that works. It might make more sense just to take your ship to a local refinery and get them to do it for you. But if perhaps you're in part of an org or yourself have this particular ship, you may find that players might be more willing to come to you because you could offer better rates, you could offer decent things, and it also gives players players the opportunity to really sort of shine in the skill set and make the most out of in-game loops elements. I think that's the thing we want to have in Star Citizen. We want in-game player routes. We don't want to have to constantly go to a dedicated building that the AI handles, but instead something that the players can control, something that the players can choose how they want to do stuff. The Eclipse. Yes, the Expanse gives us that ability to have that independence from various stations. So I for one, am looking forward to this ship because it definitely is something that would make mining vastly more appealing than it is right now. And moving on to the next vehicle. Oops, that's just me coming off my tabs. Yes, here it is. This is the Starlancer TAC. So the design of the Starlancer TAC is that it's a military variant of the ship. Again, 96 SCUs worth of cargo. Fucking atrocious. Anyway, the Starlancer TAC has two turrets on the underside, which at the moment have yet to be determined, but they look like bearings to me. Yeah, they look... Okay, judging from the model, I want to say these are size 5 bearing turrets. Which, I mean, okay, sure. I mean, size 5s are good, don't get me wrong. Size 5s are very good. But I kind of was thinking, if you're going to give this an AC-130 vibe, surely it would make sense to make them either size 6 or maybe have an additional turret that has a big boomstick underneath. You know, like if you're gonna represent the AC-130 with all of the firepower support, surely having a cannon alongside would also add to that. But yeah, that's the Starlancer for you. Not exactly an appealing vessel, to say the least. And again, something that I personally have absolutely no cares about. This thing is just, it's there. I think that's the best way I could describe any and all of these ships, is it's there. Which is kind of disappointing, really. Especially since all of the other stuff has been pretty impressive so far. Again, it's just going to have to be the Starlancer build that's the thing, which for some reason isn't advertised here. Rather interesting. Maybe. Anyway, moving on to the last ship, we are presented with a pretty decent sight, which is the Odyssey. The Odyssey is MISC's answer to the Carrack, and it is certainly an answer I can get behind. Oh, she looks pretty. Oh, she looked very pretty. Nice big cargo bay on the underside. Very sexy looking ship design. Very, very sexy. Surprisingly small cargo bay. I had hoped we would get more, but it would appear to be that MISC doesn't really know how to put a cargo bay in their ships as of late, which is disappointing. I mean, okay, the MISC is apparently it's capital size, apparently, GG. You're going to have to improve the size of the cargo capacity then. But yeah, so the main benefit of this particular ship is that it has an onboard refinery, which is pretty good. It's got a mining arm and... Oh, it has a mining arm. Oh, that changes things. That really changes things. Timing again, the music, swear to Christ. But yeah, okay, so mining arm and tractor beam, tier 2 medical beds, and a vehicle bay with a hangar on top. That makes this very, very interesting. Because the thing is, the Odyssey being the answer for the Carrack, it's a very big fucking answer, especially since the Carrack, while it does have some limited function, it has some, drones and the cartography station, it doesn't have an on-site refinery, nor does it have a vehicle bay. Well, it's got a cargo bay that you can put vehicles in, but it's not got it. It also doesn't. Also, the hangar that the Carrack has isn't that big, so this could be the superior option when it comes to expedition ships. But it's not been the game yet, and who knows? Maybe Anvil might come up with something even better than the Carrack. I mean, the Liberator is kind of there, but still. But no, okay. I was not aware of the refinery. I either heard about it and then forgot about it, but I honestly would have remembered something like that. So no, I am very, very intrigued at the Odyssey now. Makes me kind of want to look into something like that. But what purpose would it serve? I'm just thinking out loud because I'm trying to save myself money. it's becoming a subconscious, no, you don't need another new ship. No, you don't need them to give you another level of concierge. That's terrifying, to be fair. I've already reached a high level of concierge. Oh, dear God, Emperor, help me. Anyway, that's unfortunately going to have to be it for today. Thank you all so very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed. And if you like this kind of content, do let me know in the comment section down below, clicking on the like button, and of course subscribing to the channel. So MISC Day has proven it to be an interesting day with the introduction of a new vessel, which in my personal opinion I'm not a huge fan of. I kind of feel like MISC is dropping the ball when it comes to making a practical ship, but at the same time I would also like to hear your thoughts on the subject as well. Maybe MISC's new direction is something you're more into. Maybe it's something that you feel the same way. Who knows? But what I can say is that this ship, yeah, it's good, but there could be so much more to it. And I think that's the biggest thing that gets me. The Starlancer build is the only version of that ship that I personally would say has any real merit. Everything else, kind of bleh. Anyway, I'll see you in the next day, which, if I'm not mistaken, that is... I want to say Xeno Day. We'll find out in a second, but I'm fairly convinced it's Xeno Day, which could be a quick recording day, because there's not that many Xeno ships, thank the Emperor. Yes, it is. It is, in fact, Xeno Day. So you've got the Gatak, Iopa, not even going to pronounce that, and Espiria, which is good, because the day afterwards is when the servers die. The big RSI. That's when the big old Polaris decides to show its face. I mean, it's already in-game right now, but still. Anyway, thank you all so very much for watching. This is Mr. Jaeger signing out. Have a good one, guys.